This episode of the Polyhedron Collider cast is sponsored by Yonder. Go to www.yonder.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider for a discount off your first order. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider cast, episode 160, the games we're looking forward to in 2025. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
I'm Rory J. Summers, and I've made a mistake.
What? No, surely not.
Is it because you didn't write it on your clipboard?
Thanks. No, I've made this mistake. I was doing a bit of research today on games we were about to talk about, and one of them led me to GameFound, where I've now started following loads of campaigns, including one I got very excited about, Ark Nova 3rd Edition.
Third edition?
Third edition. I don't know.
Was a second edition?
Second edition, I think, is where they put all the white numbers on the... They've done what's it called? The snowflake scoring system.
Oh, well, you can't have negative marks.
We can't have negative scores, yeah. So they put that on there, which also links it up to what BGA is done. And then they've got the Marine World expansion, so they've changed some of the iconography. So I think that's second edition. I don't know, I've got first. But third edition, I don't know what it is, but it's in a bigger box, which means it's got more stuff in it.
Am I right in thinking it's actually just, like, tidying things up?
What, does it come with a broom?
It goes with a broom. Well, yeah, it is a zoo. You do need to do a lot of brushing up, and shoveling.
I'm thinking, bigger box, there'll be space in there now for my new neoprene mat, because, let's face it, the board is probably going to be shit and oversized still. So I can fit my mat in there. Yeah.
What if they change the rules enough that your neoprene mat is no longer valid?
Cha-ching was the sound from the publisher there.
And when did you buy this neoprene mat, Rory?
It was a Christmas present to myself via my son.
I'll say this year. What, as in 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
As in 2 weeks ago, yeah. So that was about 60 odd quid, that was.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's a shame, mate.
But But I will get a bigger box, and all the icons and the cards will be the same, so maybe it'll be worth it.
Of course they will.
Right. Well, I've made my mistakes. I've made mistakes. Okay.
Well, you've made the first mistake of 2025. The year is but young.
Yes, there is that.
Oh. All right, then. Should we get on and talk about some games that aren't Ark Nova 5th edition or whatever the hell is going on with that? I'm not kidding. I'm on Ark Nova BGG page, and there's no mention of versions of editions on this. It's very confusing.
I don't know. I think... There's no information on the GameFound page. It's my first time really using GameFound, but it's like the follow this page. Here's a campaign, and all it does is talk about how good Ark Nova is. It doesn't talk about, and that if I join, then I get a free gift.
So this is the pre one, right? They haven't.
This is the pre. They haven't launched it yet.
Yes,
yeah, that's common for GameFound.
There's no information about what actually is in this version.
There won't be yet. They won't release that until they make it live.
Why don't people do that? It's really pissed me off when I've been trying to do my research for this episode. Why do publishing companies, and I'm talking to you, publishers, why don't you put the goddamn information about your game on the fucking website?
It's not live yet.
Why keep it all a mystery? Right?
Get you interested. Look what it's done to you. Look what it's done to you. You've become a fucking lunatic.
I'm peed off. I want to know what Board and Dice are bringing out this year. Do you know what they're bringing out? A bunch of expansions, nothing else. Why aren't you telling me?
And a new edition and a new version. Well, we're on new editions of stuff. A new release, a second edition of the Twatty Hadouken Deluxe version.
Why have you got a new edition of the special edition?
Yes.
Didn't they already do the special edition?
Yeah, they've done the special edition, but they're basically doing a reprint of it, as far as I can tell.
Right, okay.
For those people who missed out the first time, like me. I say missed out, elected not to.
Don't you already own everything for cheap?
Exactly, that's why I didn't bother with it. I didn't see the point. It's just, it's prettification, which I do like, but I don't, in this case, prettifying 10% of it when I buy 90% of it just seems silly, so I elected not to, because to be honest, it's quite nice as it is. So adding a couple of wooden things, I didn't really see the point. So besides, I'll probably have to buy board game extras at some point. So
Yeah.
Which you've kind of both stumbled across the kind of issue with this entire episode of this podcast. We do this every year, and every year we try and pick a bunch of games that we're excited for over the next 12 months, right?
Yeah.
And every year we've got a lack of information about what's in the game.
to be fair, Steve, that never stops us.
I know. I mean, we've been doing this for like 8 years now. Never stopped us once. Nope. And most importantly, a lack of information about when the game's coming out, because I keep looking back on the old previews and the amount of games that didn't come out that year, sometimes not even like that decade.
Yeah.
is
That decade. Jeez, really?
There are some games we talked about that never even came out.
Hell.
I mean, Steve, right?
Yeah.
Don't show all our cards all at once, right? People need to listen to this and have some enjoyment. And you've basically told them there's going to be an hour-long episode of us being wrong,
guessing
providing
about what's in
zero
a box.
information of any value whatsoever. You know what? Just do the outro now and go and have a cup of tea.
The only difference here, Sid, is I've not put the small print disclaimer at the very bottom. I just put it at the top centre at the front. So I'm managing expectations is what I'm doing.
Four blokes talking shite for an hour.
Just you wait till you get to my choices. And what you've just said is going to become so factually accurate, it's terrifying.
Is that going to be the only fact in this podcast?
What, that I'm wrong? No, because Rory's already admitted he was wrong. So that's 2 facts already.
We're 5 minutes in, and two of you off 50% of this podcast is already wrong. Wow.
Well, I
We're
think
carrying
you
the
should
torch
get
here, Tudor.
I think you should get the show on the road and make sure one of you two can now be wrong too.
It's never going to happen because I'm never wrong.
Go out there, Andy, since you're never wrong. Right, just to remind you of the format, we're going to do similar to what we do in our best of the year. We're going to pick a game each, so that's going to be roughly 12 games. I say roughly because I've seen this short list that we put in the show notes, and I think a few of us are going to be sneaking a couple of extra ones in.
When you say a few of us, you mean you, don't you, Steve? I'm looking at the same list as you, and me, Andy, have only got three items.
We stuck to the rules.
I've hidden mine behind a OneNote.
Oh, good grief. Well,
Right.
shall the class SWATs do their job and show people how it's supposed to be done? And I shall kick off with being right and go for a very easy kill and go for Speakeasy, the next Lacerda by Eagle Griffin Games. Ian O'Toole, probably Paul Grogan as the rule writer. So the superstar quad tag team that has been so reliable for the last few years and has taken most of my money reliably year on year. Speakeasy is set obviously in the 1920s in the Prohibition era. So the idea is that you play one of many local mobsters. You are trying to expand your empire by shaking down boozers, rum running, driving trucks around, expanding your influence around town, and ultimately trying to become the biggest mobster of them all. And don't forget the cannoli.
I had no idea this was about essentially mobsters. I thought it'd be more about jazz and running a speakeasy rather than the mobster
If it was
stuff
about
about it.
jazz, I would not be backing it because jazz is awful. It is the worst form of music.
I thought it was about the music in the nightclub in the that Prohibition era, but I didn't realise it was about the gangs in moving alcohol around and stuff like that.
You even get a wee truck to move rum casks around in. That's the best bit.
Oh my God, I've just seen it.
See?
It is a little wee wooden truck which has 2 little rum casks that fit into it.
How good's that? That's worth
That is
120
pretty
quid
cool.
on its own.
I like the fact that whilst playing this game, we could listen to the Bugsy Malone soundtrack.
Absolutely true, yes.
Yeah.
See, it's got something for everybody in this.
That's not
but
the
I mean-
soundtrack I had in my mind for Andy playing this game. I've got the Anthill mob going through my head.
But I mean, there's not really much more to say because as far as I'm concerned, this is a kind of insta-back for me because I've been on this pretty much reliable train for the last few years now. So Kickstarter kicks off in sort of mid-June, and by May the following year, they've delivered it. pretty much like clockwork, and then the next Kickstarter starts about 2 months later, and around the merry-go-round we go again. But I mean, I follow Vital on Instagram, so I've already seen his next one after this. So it's going to be with us for a while. But this one looks particularly good. It seems to be a slight break from the standard Vital Lacerda norm, where you have an action and a bunch of executive actions. You do a few other things, and then away you go. He seems to have broken away mostly actually with inventions, which I've recently played. This is his most recent one. This came out 2024. But this one, you look like you're playing cards as well, which is a very strange introduction for a Lacerda game. That's heresy as far as that's concerned. So I am greatly looking forward to it. It does look really fun, really good, if you like your heavy games, because obviously this is going to be not for the faint-hearted, because the last couple of Lacerda games have been heavy, to say the least.
Even for Lacerda games, you say they're heavy?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, Inventions is tough. It's once you get your head around it, it's actually not so bad, but to get your head around Inventions, there's a lot going on. And the same is true of Weather Machine and, of course, On Mars before that. So his last few have been particularly hefty. So I'm looking forward to Speakeasy.
I'm just looking. I mean, of course, the tool artwork and graphic design is always stellar.
Yes.
But I'm flicking through pictures of it now. It does look really intriguing. There's posters, there's jazz musicians, there's gangsters in there. There's little wee wooden gangster meeples and little wooden policeman meeples, as well as your little backwood whiskey barrels and all that. I mean, it looks super complicated just from the images, but I'm more intrigued in this than I have been about Lacerda for a while. Because it's got a strong theme. And I think where a lot of Lacerda games fall down a little bit is they become a little bit too mechanical and not theme-led, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. I mean, I quite liked Weather Machine, but it was quite busy on the board. Inventions is very beige. Like, literally, the board is beige. It works, and it's quite interesting. It does follow a flow, but I know what you mean. But, I mean, some of the comments, even on the Kickstarter page, have said this is one of the most thematic games that Lacerda has made. In fact, one of the most thematic Euros that they've ever played. So it does have promise, and I've been quite keen on it for a good sort of year and a half. Ever since I saw the sneak previews from Lacerda's Instagram feed. So, yeah, this does promise to be pretty damned good.
No, I agree with Steve on this one. I think the theme speaks to me here as well. I'm more interested in this than I am being in the other ones that you've talked about previously so lovingly. But this sound interesting already.
I agree.
Right, it looks fantastic.
They always do, though. I mean, Eagle Griffin know what they're doing in terms of production quality, so we know it's going to be good. And it's almost certainly going to be on an insert of choice shortlist at the end of the year. Right.
So, do you want to pick someone else then, Andy?
Go on, Rory. Go on. Show us exactly. The two class SWATs will continue their theme.
Do you know what? I'm gonna follow suit here. Really, I'm gonna stick to something that is a well-known, tried and tested method, and I'm going to talk about. I'm trying to work out how to pronounce this. Ayar, Children of the Sun. And this is the next game in the kind of Fabio Lopiano Osprey game series that follows on from Merv and S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Steve and I played Merv. We absolutely loved it. Thought it was a brilliant belting game.
Lovely game.
The production quality is really great. Again, more artwork from Ian O'Toole, so it looks really lovely. S.T.A.L.K.E.R.'s been sat on my shelf and been itching. I've been asking Steve if we can play it on a Monday night now for what feels like months. But I think it's with Merv, we need a third player, and our regular third player has been in Japan for like the last 7 months or whatever it was.
It felt like it.
It felt like. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm not too sure I know much about the game itself because they haven't put anything on Board Game Geek yet. But I'm excited. It's a Fabio Lopiano game. It's Ian O'Toole artwork. It's Osprey Games. It's going to be the third one in the series. And quite frankly, if all I ever do is buy it and put it on the shelf next to the other two so it looks really pretty, then great. But I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic game as well. So.
You're right. There's not much information about this at the moment. Not even a single image of a prototype or anything like that.
Nothing.
So we're guessing.
It's complete guesswork. But again, I'm a big fan of Fabio Lopiano. This isn't the first game of his that's going to be on my shortlist today. Be prepared to hear his name again soon. but yeah, I was really impressed with this, the Merv, and really impressed with his. I said, bring on more information. I'm hoping this will be out around Expo time.
Yes. Oh, right, okay. I was going to say
it might do, because Osprey is normally pretty good. They'll put up the pre-orders fairly soon, and they deliver very promptly, very good. So yeah, hopefully I'll get it.
I wonder if
this
it's going to
summer.
be on Demo Expo for release at Essen. I wonder.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah. Thing is, though, you've said Children of the Sun, and all I've got in my head now is the Mysterious Cities of Gold. I mean, that does show our age, I'm not going to lie, but it was an excellent cartoon. And they're all on YouTube, if I remember rightly. Go and watch them now. We'll wait.
Hang on. That's like 20 hours of content, isn't it?
It is. About 39 episodes, if I remember rightly. Something ridiculous.
I'm gonna pick Steve, because he's got a really long list. I might need some extra time to get through it. Don't think I haven't noticed that you've put 2 games on the same line either.
Well, all right, I wasn't going to do that one first, but let's do that one. So, yes, there are 2 games on one line, and the reason is because they were both part of the same Kickstarter. So this was a Kickstarter for 2 games. These are from Shem Phillips and Garphill Games, and these are Skara, Brae and the Anarchy. And the reason I put 2 on them, because as I said, it was one Kickstarter which got you both of these games. Now, I must admit, Skara is the one I don't know much about. It's about Neolithic...
Scottish people.
Neolithic Scottish people, yes. Up in the Outer Hebrides, trying to scrape a living, digging holes in the ground.
Only we had a local expert on such matters.
Well, hang on, it'll take a couple of days for the letter to get to me.
The pigeon.
I don't actually know much about the mechanics of this. I've tried to decipher it based on what was released during the Kickstarter campaign. Admittedly, I haven't watched the rules videos that came out with it. But the real reason I back this is for the Anarchy. Now, the Anarchy is a spiritual sequel to Adrian's Wall. And Adrian's Wall is my favourite verb and right game in existence, and this is a... Yeah, I'm sticking with the verb and right.
It works.
I like
wit.
it. It does work.
Yeah.
It's good. I'd forgotten you'd use that in the past. That's why I'm laughing. Oh, yeah.
Agent's War was like a heavy Euro verb and right, or as close as you can get to it. It's overly complicated, but once you get used to it, it is that usual ticking off boxes, which ticks off something else, but you're using actual resources, you're using workers, replacements. This is a sequel to it, so it works on the same principle. So it's all about protecting your castle. So I think it's got a historical...
It has. I was looking into this.
It looks ace.
It's King Stephen.
Hello.
No, I didn't even know we had a King Stephen.
Great Uncle Henry.
So yes, set in 1135, where Henry I has died, leaving no male heir. So King Stephen de Blois, has announced himself king, but his daughter is contesting that. So basically, it led to anarchy in the UK, not Sex Pistols type. And you are defending your kingdom, and on the basic look of it, it does look very similar to Adrian's War. You've got to attack. You've got to not attack. You've got to defend things. So you've got to build structures. It's got the similar kind of tracks which you cross off, but there's a bunch of extra mechanics, including building a little castle with wooden meeples,
Which looks fantastic. It's got 2 whacking great turrets. It's got a forecourt. It's got a central garden area. There's meeples around it. It looks fantastic.
Did you say a forecourt? As in like a forecourt where you can park your car?
Yes, that's where you can buy a Ford Fiesta in this castle. And as soon as you drive it away, it'll explode.
Gearbox just fall out the bottom of it. Well, I'm hoping the gearbox does not fall out the bottom of this. I'm really looking forward to this because I really loved Adrian's Wall, and more importantly, my wife really likes Adrian's Wall, which means it gets played a lot. Yeah. So I know I'll get this to the table, and I'll get it to the table quite a lot.
I have to admit, Hadrian's Wall is one of the very few verb and rights that I didn't hate. I quite like it.
Because it's not shit.
I think that's pretty much it, Sid. Yes, because a lot of verb and right games are shit.
A lot of them, it's a horrible thing to say, but a lot of them felt like jumping onto a bandwagon, in my opinion. There was an awful lot that came out, especially the height of it, like about 2018, somewhere around then, where there just seemed to be a wash with them. And an awful lot of them just felt like minimal effort. Oh, we can do this. It's only a pad of paper, maybe some dice and a pencil. We can knock that out. It's 15 quid. But these feels like someone has really gone and thought about it and constructed a real in-depth game based on what is essentially a really light system.
Yeah.
Shem Phillips thinking about a design? Surely not, Steve.
Well, this is Bobby Hill, who is the designer here.
Oh.
Yes, sorry. So it's from
Garfield Games, yeah.
Garfield Games, but yeah,
It's not Shem. Well, he must be busy doing his next compass pointing set. But this does look good, Steve. I'm not going to lie. It does look really good. I have to admit, though, there's only about 3 Verban Wright games I actually don't hate. This Hadrian's Wall's one of them. Paper Dungeons from
Alley-Cat,
a dungeon scrawler, which I quite liked. That's quite fun. And Railroad Inc.
Yeah.
I think they're the 3 that I've played that I don't hate. The rest of them have all been bobbins.
Oh God, what's the monster mapping one? Cartographers. Same people did role player.
I actually prefer that online because it's got tiles. I don't know why, but I think tiles works better than writing down, and I don't know why. It's the same thing, but it feels better.
I know exactly what you mean. I agree with you.
Yeah, I would say it's the tactile nature of it, but you're not touching it, so I don't know what it is.
Right then, I think we should shift over to Sid.
Right then. Prepare yourselves.
I am prepared.
I've got my clipboard, Sid. I'm ready.
He's got the clipboard out. So, Steve has already touched on it, right? I really find this episode the hardest one of the year. Right?
Is that because you don't do your homework because you're a rebel?
No, because I do my homework, right? I look through the lists. I try and pretend I know what I'm doing. It's like trying to buy cushions for me, right? I try and form an opinion about them, and I can't. Because
I'm pretty sure you have an opinion about cushions, Sid. And it's
I don't
positive.
like them. I don't. The little parasites, they occupy your sofa and they get in the way, and the fuckers multiply. You put one down for too long and more will arrive.
He's not wrong. I mean, what's the first thing you do when there's a bunch of cushions on the sofa? Pick them up and move them out of the way so you can
Nobody
park
goes,
your arse.
oh, I'll sit down on this. Your hand goes behind you.
Board game podcast.
But anyway, right, so...
You weren't here for the Dunelm days, mate.
So staying on tag. So I have this year refused to pretend like I have an opinion on a new game coming out this year.
Okay.
And therefore, I'm going to go back to my 2024 pick, right? And I'm going to rehash it and present it as new information.
Right. Is this point, do we just replay what you said about a game last year? Now,
that would have been very lazy. And
this
that
is known
is
as the Ubisoft approach.
Now, that is
So this is known as the Ark Nova approach.
This is the Ark Nova approach. So this is version 2.
You're going to have to buy a new playmat.
So this is good. I'm going to have to make sure it's incompatible with last year's as well, so people can work out the differences. But no, right, okay. I will justify myself, right? Because the game I'm going to rehash is Horror on the Orient Express. Okay?
Yes.
And the reason I'm going to justify my case is that it shouldn't have been valid last year. Steve was too nice to me. I got away with it. So I'm going to risk it again and put it on the table this year because it's actually coming out this year. And more importantly, since last year, when it was just a little glimmer of something exciting in the distance, we've now played this. And quite frankly, it's absolutely epic.
It was a lot of fun.
Right?
It was
a lot of fun.
mad, stupid. Sid nearly killed us at least 3 times, but it was bloody brilliant.
So, I feel absolutely justified in my case here because I don't have to make anything up. I've played it. I understand what's going on in it. And since we've played it, it's got bigger and better.
Just one more token. No, Sid, no more tokens.
I mean, come on. I mean, it's a Cthulhu game. You get to push your luck, and you push it a little bit too far, you die. No ticky-backies. No get out of jail free card. You're dead. Love it. Love a game where the stakes are on the table like that. I also love a game where I can mash my love of an RPG into something that's on the table with a fantastic story, cracking set of minis. It's got loads of awesome mechanics in it. You know, you got to push your luck in there. You've got the kind of storytelling aspects of it. You've got genuine threat, you know, actually gets you really into the game. You don't even realize how how much you're gripping the table, waiting for somebody to pull the wrong thing out of that bloody bag of clues.
Usually you.
You have. I maybe not always, but yeah. And I do not have a. I don't feel bad for bringing it up again because it will come out this year. I think 3 of 4 of us have backed it on Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, if you include John, 4 of the 5
4
of us
of
are
us.
backed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I think this publishing house, I forget which one it is now.
It's Chaosium.
Chaosium.
Chaosium, that's right. Chaosium have basically got about $1,000 out of 4 of us. Haven't they?
Yes.
And they deserve it.
Yeah, totally. Do you know my favourite bit of this game? Shutting a curtain prevents damage from a cosmic monstrosity. Something from beyond the veil of time and space is defeated by a curtain.
Well, it was a blackout curtain, though, wasn't it?
Oh, it's true. It's true.
Right.
But
Don't know for the win.
Oh, there's a monster outside. Shh. We're fine now. It's all right. You can't see us.
Well then, Sid, can I offer you a recommendation then?
Yes, please do. Because if
This
you're going to
is-
fuel my laziness even further, I will bite your hand off.
This is me sneaking in a little extra one here.
Yeah, we all know what
here
you're
we
doing,
go.
Tudor.
I know. Breaking my own rules, I know. So, Chaosium have also announced another game which is going to come out this year, according to their notes. Now, I'm wondering whether this may be available as a little pre-order on the actual Horror Known to Express thing. I don't know. That's me guessing. However, this is Miskatonic Tales Journey to Innsmouth.
Ooh.
And they've been slowly teasing bits about this. And it's an open world, story-based adventure. And the best example I can think of, because they just quite literally just put something on Instagram about 4 minutes before we started recording, luckily, which explains some of the mechanics. This is effectively Tainted Grail in the Call of Cthulhu universe.
I'm sorry, I've just come.
Where do I sign up?
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
So you're talking, what, sandboxy, open worldy kind of...
RPG with a big book of text, of stories and things that are going on, and there are locations that go on the board. As you reveal the board, you go to the book and you read the description about what's in there, and then it'll give you choices about how you do things.
That sounds amazing, and where do I sign? Take my money.
I need a moment. I'm going on mute.
Cross your legs, walk away. Oh my goodness me, this looks incredible. Well, it sounds incredible. I'll say it looks incredible. There's one photograph.
Yeah, they are saying it's coming out this year.
Yes, and then in it.
But at the moment, it seems to be very scant on details. So there is a little bit of a pinch of, are they actually bringing it out this year or are they not? But it does say 2025 release date, and there's little information at the moment. But yeah, from what I've seen, basically, yeah, Arkham Horror Tainted Grail.
It's going to be a good Cthulhu year.
It is.
It is definitely.
Steve and I know Innsmouth very, very well. It is not a place one wishes to go. Every time I've been involved in Innsmouth, my character has died horribly, and that includes Mansions of Madness. This is going to be ace.
Well, thank you, Steve. I'm writing my note for next year so I can include that. So again, I don't have to make up opinions.
When it gets delayed, you can add it into next year's list.
Having said that, I think it's time for you, Mr. Tudor, to pick.
Oh, so I pick a proper one?
I think you should pick a proper. As you've already taken half the conch anyway, you might as well. Carry on.
Okay. Well, let's stick to the theme then. So we mentioned Tainted Grail. And the game I'm actually the most excited about, this was actually going to be my easy, low-hanging fruit that I was going to mention first, is Lands of Evershade.
Yeah.
From, yeah, well,
That's what I like to call a swipe right game for Steve, that is.
This is Lands of Evershade by Awakened Realms, and this ticks every single Steve Tudor box. It is a RPG fantasy game. They've blatantly stolen the artwork from Elden Ring, or the visual styling from Elden Ring. In fact, even the description of the world looks like it's taken from Elden Ring, and that's not a bad thing, because Elden Ring is awesome, and quite possibly one of the best video games ever made. So, yeah, I said it.
Doesn't make it true, but allegedly it's quite good. I've not played it.
So this is, again, open world RPG kind of game. We're going to have a big storybook. You're going to have encounters to go through. You're going to have monsters to meet, meet and beat, which of course you can have tactical combat, which isn't in the Kings of Ruin, Tainted Grail kind of games. You've actually got grids of fighting to go on. But what's interesting about this compared to the other Awakened Realms RPG type games is you will create your own character from scratch. So whereas like Tainted Grail, you were taking characters with their own backgrounds, here you are making your own character completely. And just like an RPG, you will choose a race, you will choose a class, you will choose equipment, and all the equipment, and this is pretty cool, all the equipment is little slots that pop into the board with pictures of the your armor slots into the armor slot, into a little picture, and your bow slots into the bow slot, and all that kind of thing. Very beautifully produced, what we've seen so far. Massive amounts of content potentially, and I don't know if this is true, but the hint that you might be able to play this as an RPG afterwards as well. But at the moment, yeah, I'm dead excited for this. This is the game I'm looking forward to the most.
I'd forgotten I'd back this. But for obvious reasons, I must admit, I concur with you, Steve. It is pretty much ticking all of the itchy boxes. It does look pretty good. I mean, I love Tainted Grail's storytelling mechanic. It is frankly the best story-based game I've ever played. So if they do more of the same and or better, that would be just dandy, frankly.
Yeah. Right then, Andy, you might as well pick another one.
Oh,
then.
God, he's put me on the spot. Well,
I have.
I'm going to the opposite end of the spectrum now, because we started with Speakeasy, which was pretty hefty. I'm now going to go with a game called Polaris, which is by Draco Stable, which I've never heard of. I think it's probably a new one for them. And this is a fairly light affair in which you are making constellations on a rotating board around the pole star, of course, Polaris. For those of you doing astronomy, this should be, or at least an interest in astronomy, this should be fairly familiar to you. But the idea is, it seems a kind of, if you remember the game Mainframe in the Android universe, the fourth one in that series.
I really love that game.
Yes, it is. It's basically squares, but with a nice theme. You play a card, you put down a shape on the board made up of a bunch of lines, and if you make a bunch of boxes, you get some points. Polaris doesn't seem too different to that, in the sense that you play a card and you put down a pattern on the board, but it looks like common goals. So, you'll need to make a shape, which is presumably a constellation, which will then score you some points if you manage to get it into the right position, having had the board rotated, because you've got the central part of the board where all the little sort of tokens and comets and lines that make the constellations up, and then the outside of the board rotates with the phases of the moon, which then changes your viewing angle, and apparently the person with the best angle of Polaris wins the game at the end. So pretty light. I'd expect it to last, I don't know, when it says 40 minutes on the playtime, I reckon seasoned professionals like ourselves will probably get through it in less than half an hour. It does look very pretty. It's only $38, which is about 30 quid, so it's almost punt territory, though. And I was looking forward to this, or something I was interested in I think an Essen podcast, I think it was, if I cast my mind back. So now it's hit Kickstarter. It's been and gone on Kickstarter, so I am quite looking forward to it being delivered later this year.
I'm looking at the pictures. It does look pretty cool. As you said, it looks like that old Android mainframe, but on a circular board.
Yes.
Which is your constellations on the stars. It looks really pretty.
Yeah. This is the Simone Luciani game, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So, and we quite like Luciani's games. So
we do.
Yeah. Although the circular board now is going to give me kind of post-traumatic stress about Rats of Wistar, but...
Yeah, because Simone Luciani, I'd completely forgotten that he was the co-designer for S.T.A.L.K.E.R, which is one of my favourite games. So,
which has a rotating board element as well, yeah.
But I'm quite looking forward to this. I say it's the other end of the spectrum from my usual fare, but it does look pretty interesting and quite clever, which we do like clever.
The description has, you only have to perform one of three choices. Those three choices are going to be mind-breakingly hard to make.
That's why it's going to be a 40-minute game. I mean, there's only probably about 5 minutes of content, but 35 minutes of that are going to be, oh my God, I can't do any of these.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing this. So.
Yeah, me too.
Good choice.
I think it's due in June, according to this. I haven't actually paid that much attention to the updates on it, so I can't tell you whether it's on schedule or not. I'm going to assume yes, because it doesn't look that complicated to make, because there's no miniatures or anything. It's just a bunch of tokens and cards and things. So I'd like to think it's going to be fairly straightforward to produce. He says optimistically. So, Mr. Summers, I'm going to pick on you again. We're going to go round the room.
Round. Okay. I'm going to spread myself out a little bit now. I'm going to talk about a game now. I started doing some research and I stumbled across this game. I was drawn in by the publisher. And then as I learnt more about this game, I got more and more interested. So this is coming from Earthborn Games, who of course did Earthborn Rangers a couple of years ago. That was very big, very hard to get hold of now. But then I read this. It's called Hubworld Aidalon, or Aidalon. And this is essentially
Yorkshire. Aidalon.
Aidalon. Right. Hubworld Aidalon. It sounds like this is a redo, reskin, updated version of Android Netrunner, but multiplayer. So the idea is, So I listened to their podcast. Earthborn Games do a podcast, and they did a Q&A talking all about this game. So I've sat through, listened to it. And from what I can gather, they've often played this at the 4-player count. So you're going to build a deck. You're going to construct a deck of 30 cards with 6 agents, or 6 seekers, sorry. And then you have to send those out to your opponent's territories. And they've essentially got, much like Netrunner, they've got 3 different areas. So you've got your hand, your deck, and your discard pile to try and steal your agents from them. But you're going to defend them with a 3x3 grid of cards, like traps and stuff like that. So it sounds
very similar.
It sounds very similar. They spent quite a bit of time on this Q&A talking about how it is different, but obviously there's got a lot of touchbacks to it. Now, the designers, Michael Boggs and Corey DeVore, worked for Fantasy Flight Games, and they both worked on Android Netrunner. Yeah. Michael Boggs is actually the guy who designed the Marvel Champions, the card game. So he's done a lot there as well. So this is coming from guys that have got a lot of experience in this world of building these type of card games. And this sounds really interesting. A lot of pedigree in the designers. Although it's not a type of game I normally play, when Steve and I played Android Netrunner as part of the board game 100 last year, it reminded me how much I do enjoy that game. Even though there were points where I do feel it was a little bit clunky and whatnot, this apparently is a really smooth version. And even the decks, where the decks are going to work, is that you can mix up, so you don't have a Genteki deck that you build from. You can build a mission max your cards however you choose, building just a 30-card draw deck or 36-card draw deck. It sounds really interesting, and I'm keen to get in on the ground floor on this, because if it's anything like Earthborn Rangers, this is going to be nigh on impossible to get hold of if you don't back it. This is how I ended up on GameFound just before we started recording today.
I see.
You found your entry-level drug, have you?
Yes. So it's really keen to learn more about this game, but I think if it's going to have a reasonable price point for a punt, I think I'm going to enjoy this.
Well, it certainly sounds good. I mean, I quite like Netrunner. I've not played it in years, and I was rubbish when I did, but I did enjoy it. So if it's more of the same, but with more players, that makes it more accessible, which can't be a bad thing.
No. They actually said on this podcast that you could play an unlimited amount of players, providing you had enough cards.
A 24 player game, that can't go possibly wrong.
But that's it. Theoretically, as long as you've got enough people around with decks, you can just play a 6-player. They actually talk about playing a 6-player game in the podcast.
Oh.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. But I'm keen to see how this is going to work. Obviously, Netrunner is strictly a 2-player game, but expanding that up to make a 3 or 4-player game, and how does it work when you've got 3 players? Because you 2 people gang up on someone else, or what happens there? So, really interested to learn more about it. So, I don't know if it's going to be delivered this year, but it should. The campaign's obviously going to launch this year. So I might do a SID next year and talk about it again.
Trendsetter me, mate.
Yeah, I was struggling to how to respond to that, to be honest with you.
Be worrying if I ever set a trend for anything.
But I'm going to pick Sid. Go on, mate. Surprise me with your next choice.
So, for my next choice, I always love to drop an RPG into my looking forward to the next year worth of games, right? We all know that. Because we all know how much I like to buy them, put them on a shelf, and then not play them for a year. Right? So, but this year's a funny old year, right? I've had a good look through the lists. And it's a year, as far as I can tell, of remasters and version 2s.
Really?
Yeah. There are so many coming out this year, right? I'll give you a quick fire, right? Starfinder 2E comes out this year. So that's going to align Starfinder with the 2E remastered Pathfinder rule set.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Nothing new, novel there. Free League, Alien version 2. Revamping
I forgot about that.
Yeah, revamping the
grenade
rules.
rules in it now.
Grenade and fire would be nice. But this one, actually, a little bit more interesting with Alien V2, apart from the rulebook maybe fixing some problems, is there's a new cinematic called Rapture Protocol.
Yes.
All right, that is quite exciting. But I know bugger all about it, so we'll leave it at that. And then there's Coriolis V2. We will not acknowledge the great dark element of it, because that's horseshit. But Coriolis V2, the rulebook, as far as I'm concerned, is what's coming out, is very much needed, because Coriolis is one of the best games in the Third Horizon. Coriolis in the Third Horizon is one of the best games ever, but with a completely busted, out-of-date, broken rule set. So Coriolis version 2 is coming out, no grenades, half the guns don't exist, missing information.
Splash damage.
Frankly, I don't understand how we've got through it, but it's still one of the best games I've ever played, and I want to play some more. I do not ever want to delve. If anybody makes me delve, I will be a very unhappy bunny.
But that's the core mechanic of the game.
No, we don't talk about that bit, Steve. I just said we don't talk about the great dark bit. But for those that are interested, there is a whole new Lost Horizon aspect to Coriolis, the Great Dark, which, hey, look, we've played the quick start. We didn't enjoy the delving, but maybe there's more when the full release comes out. So I'll maybe give it a little bit of leeway. It's Free League. They'll probably get a look in.
And there's the new books for Blade Runner as well.
Yes, indeed. New campaigns.
I've discovered I have backed it. I didn't realise I had.
There are actually some new stuff. There is some new stuff coming out, which I think is worthy of a mention in this little mini quickfire roundup. And that is, there's Discworld from Modiphius coming out.
Ooh.
I don't know if you boys have seen this.
Oh, I did see that, and yeah, is it 2D20 or is it a different system?
No, they've done a weird thing. They have done this their own system, and there's a GM's narrativium die. Right?
Okay.
The whole thing is written in a classic Discworldy kind of way, which doesn't really make sense, and it makes you scratch your head about what the hell's actually written. I think it's a D8. Okay? I think it's a D8. But basically, you as a player pick a trait, you make your case as to why you're allowed to use it to the GM. The GM goes, yeah, okay, you can have a D4 or a D6 or a D8 or a number up to D12, right? Then the GM rolls their narrativium die. I think it's a D8. And if you do better, awesome, you pass. If you do worse, well, it's a Discworld game, right? So who the knows what's going to happen? The sky might melt, or death will arrive, or his daughter, or weird stuff will happen. Looks really, really interesting. The only reason I haven't backed it is because it's a Modiphius game, which means the first set of copy of it will be full of mistakes, and I'm tired of having mistakes in my Modiphius books. So I'm going to wait a bit, let it pipe clean itself, and then buy it.
It sounds like a weird twist on the Dune RPG mechanic. You've got to kind of convince the DM that your trait is applicable in that situation.
Yeah,
That
it's a
kind
little
of
bit
thing.
like that, except
Yeah.
there's this narrative die which puts a bit more randomness into it, which I think in a Discworld setting
Makes sense.
It's
feels
fitting.
right.
Did you see the rule about the 1 in 100 chance?
I didn't know.
No, so in the Discworld, if you're familiar with Discworld, there's always a one. There's a thing. There's a 1 in 100 chance of something happening,
Which will happen every
Which will
single time.
happen
which will
every
happen
time.
every single time. So you can apparently, as I understand it, is that if you fail your task or you want to do something, you can declare, well, there's a 1 in 100 chance, and then you get a D100, and you've got to I'm going to roll a 76, and you roll 76, then you pass.
Wow, that's outstanding.
It's just yeah. I mean, it's bonkers, but it's gonna add that. Imagine you declare a number and then you roll it. How exciting, how much fun is that going to be around the table?
Exactly.
Fantastic.
And it feels right. It feels, this bonkers system feels right for this game, right? So that one's got me quite excited.
Do
and
we
I've
get to play out the luggage? Because that would be great.
I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, because it feels open enough for that, right? It feels just about bonkers that you could play. You could play Vimes's shoes, probably, right? But as I'm looking through my list, I've also just realised that this year is also, not only is it a remaster year and a V2 year, a reinvented year, but it's also the year of the big IPs, right? Because here's my last little pick. Cosmere by Brotherwise Games. All right? Now, I know that there's people in our group that are very excited about this game, right? Because this is the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn Stormlight Saga RPG.
That'll be why I've never heard of it.
I didn't think you would have. but, right, this is a big game. This is a big deal because it is going to be an evolving RPG. So Sanderson is still writing this series of books.
Yeah.
And he's going to continue to evolve and build that world and the story as he goes. And he is directly involved in the RPG. So it's going to evolve with the story. Which I thought was quite a nice little touch.
Yeah, I actually saw him doing an advert about it the other day on one of the social medias, talking about how he's writing it and what it's all going to be. And I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson, and I was tempted by this, but I don't have enough people to actually play RPGs with.
I'm raising my hand because I'm also a big fan of Brandon Sanderson, and there's someone else we know we might mention later.
But yeah, so this one is going to be, if you're in that world, if you like your Mistborns and your Stormlights, then this is you getting the opportunity to have a rule set in which to make your happiest fantasies come alive. Not that you probably need a rule set, but if you want one, there's one here. And it's an original system. It's D20 based, but I haven't really seen much more about it at this stage. I know it's kickstarted and it's all kind of happening, so this is going to happen. But yeah, that's, and there, gentlemen.
It's going to be a big one, that is. Yeah, it's a good shout, Steve.
It's going to be a biggie. And so that is my mini RPG roundup on account of this year not having anything that really set my pants on fire. But having read through it, I've actually got quite excited, and I feel like I should have just picked one of them.
Your pants are now gently smouldering.
Yeah, and maybe it's not going to be such a shit year as I first thought when I looked at my choices.
I mean, coming back to what we said on our sort of Best of 24 podcast, 24 is going to be a pretty tough year to beat, or at least even follow, because there was so much good stuff in the last 12 months. So to keep that train rolling is going to be pretty hard. On the plus side, if it's not as good, it makes our job at the end of the year a lot easier.
I like your optimism. I like that.
Go on, Sid. Pick someone to talk then, mate.
I don't want to keep going round and round, so I'm going to pick Summers.
Back to me. Right.
Uno Reverso.
Lovely. Right. So I'm going to talk about my second Fabio Lopiano game that's coming out this year. And this is Baghdad, the City of Peace. And this is Fabio Lopiano and Nestor Mangon, who are the designers of Shackleton Base, which should have won the best game of the year last year, but never mind. But let's not get into that. So they design, and we love that. And I'm a big fan of Lopiano, as I said. This has got art by Roland McDonald, who, Sid, you'll remember, did the artwork from Ruthless. Really lovely. He also did it for Western Legends, and he did it for all the Undaunted series as well. Published by Alley Cat Games, who have got a great track record of producing fantastic games. Now, Fabio was kind enough to actually, when I begged him for some more information, he was kind enough to respond to give me more than what's on the BGG page. So the idea is, I'm going to read this verbatim.
Just leave me alone. If I promise to talk to you, you leave me alone.
Rory, this is the last time I'm going to say this. Right, so you've got a hand of 3 character cards, and each is offering skills and quests. And in your turn, you're going to play a card to the main board, do an action, and then draft another card from the market. But the cards you play on the board stay there. So every time everyone plays a new one, they all get shifted along. Once it gets to its third and final location, that's when it can get activated if there's any rewards on there from completing the quests. So this has got a rondel element to it. It's got almost, thank you. It's got a hand management aspect. It's got, you're going to be constructing buildings, you're going to be using the skill sets of the cards. You are going to be, what else is there?
You've got to think 3 turns ahead to make sure the card
you're going to have to do
3
that.
3 turns time is the one you want.
Yeah, it's going to have that. And now, according to Fabio, it's not as heavy as something like a Shackleton base. So it's a kind of medium game. Very excited about this. And Alley Cat Games have very kindly offered us a review coffee. Review coffee? Review coffee?
Maybe they have.
Just Brae when it's a coffee. Well,
Yeah,
it's just like Rory needs some more.
It's probably all that beer I've had before starting recording. That was a mistake. They've offered us a review copy of the game, which should be turning up this week. So hopefully we're going to be playing that very soon, and we can discuss it in full in the episode once we've all, well, some of us have a chance to play it.
Oh, don't, now you've said that, it's not going to turn up and we're not going to talk about it.
Okay, let's
just jinx that, Rory.
It's going to turn up and we're going to be reviewing it soon.
What you should do is you just say, like, we should leave just blank. Or maybe I should beep out the episode number. Guys, I can beep out the swear words. I'm going to beep out the episode number. Yeah.
Episode boop. Okay.
I mean, it does sound good for Alley Cat as well, because they are pretty much, masters of the midweight Euro. So, they've got a really good track record there. So it does fit pretty much in their sort of publishing wheelhouse. So it does sound good. I like the idea of the think 3 turns ahead, because I can see me and Steve crying when we try it.
Yeah.
So that's my game. I'm going to bounce back to Andy. Go on, give us another game then, Andy.
Ooh. Well. This is probably another obvious one as well, because we have previously gushed at least twice about this game, I think, in the past, which started way back in June. The wonderful 6 month, June of 2024, when we were fortunate enough to sit down and to be taken through this by the designer, Vangelis. And this is World Order by Hegemonic Games, and I think it was myself, our friend Dave. Were you there, Steve?
It was John, wasn't it?
No, I played it.
I
played it with you.
So I knew it was someone else. Yeah, and I think it's fairly safe to say that we bloody loved it. I mean, I certainly did. Obviously, Hegemony 1-2 years ago was a huge hit. We've all played that and some of us have played that and really, really enjoyed it. I really want to play it again, although it is not for the faint-hearted. And this is a kind of an advancement of the concept. So Hegemony was based on sort of local government or national government. World Order is, of course, now taking that to the next level, and you are controlling countries rather than sort of governments within a country. So, but the game still retains that very asymmetric feel. So every world power has a completely different agenda, a completely different way of working, and different objectives in order to score points. And there's this sort of wonderful interaction between each of these world powers, as you'd expect. So you can put tanks down and as kind of an embassies, and you can send out ambassadors to gain influence in those areas, so you can score points later on and maybe not get quite as arsey, or get your enemies quite as arsey with you by saying, no, we've got an ambassador, it's all legit, honest. And I have to say, I personally really, really loved it. Vangelis did a really great job of taking us through the game. I think it's safe to say we all did enjoy ourselves.
Yes, it's a good game, and as you say, it feels like it's not. I wouldn't say it's more complex, more difficult.
I think it's lighter, actually, slightly.
I think it's lighter. I think there's more. It feels like because it's a world stage. There's a little bit more to see what's going on, a bit more kind of push and pull, and I think that's quite clever with this compared to Hegemony.
Yes, yeah, I think mechanically lighter, strategically harder.
Yes, exactly that.
Yeah,
that's the right big boy words.
There you go. And that's not. The last time I had a coffee was about 12 hours ago, so it's all good. But yeah, no, it looks really good. Again, the Kickstarter's sort of been and gone, but again, high production quality, really clear artwork. It's not complicated artwork. It's basic, it's simple, but it's clear and it does exactly what it needs to, basically. And again, it's this kind of one card, play a card, do a thing, next player, which is what made Hegemony so clever. That whilst it was that simple on your turn, the ramifications of one simple action have this wonderful butterfly effect that can affect all of the other players in various ways, probably ways that they will not thank you for. But that's what makes it so good. So again, it's probably a game you want to go into not necessarily expecting to make friends, but not necessarily enemies either, because obviously it's a very asymmetric, I'm not going to say antagonistic game, but obviously you are at odds with other people. But again, there's going to be opportunities where you can ally with people, like in Hegemony. There's always going to be opportunities where you're going to be on the same side as someone, or potentially on the side or against maybe one or two other players as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. So hopefully this will be out probably towards the end of 2025, I think.
I'm really looking forward to you guys buying this and me playing it.
I'm not buying it. I'm watching Andy buying it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm watching Andy buy
one
it.
back for me. This was just a no-brainer for me. This is a brilliant game. I love these kind of games.
I do believe your friends also bought it, haven't they, Rory? So there are two copies.
We've got two copies nearby.
So, yeah, we'll definitely be playing this because I missed out on this next Expo, and I'm a bit disappointed that I missed out on it because you guys were straight away. I think I came and found you just as you were finishing your game, and you all looked at me and went, "This is awesome."
Yep.
I mean, that's the ringing endorsement you need, isn't it?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah. Is it good, Andy? Yes, Steve. Yes, it is. And whilst on the subject, Mr. Tudor, I think it's your third choice.
Oh, it's my third and last choice, isn't it? Because we said we'd do 12. Okay, I'm going to go for something I wasn't originally going to put down, and added to the list this afternoon because I only found out about it, which is a reprint.
Oh.
And it's a special kind of reprint. I'm going to talk about Dogs of War. Dogs of War 2nd Edition. Now, this is a game I have played, but I do not own. It was a game that was originally made by Simon, and hence it included what can only be described as over-prettification. Because what could have easily been a cube became a miniature, and so therefore what could have easily been 6 cubes became 6 miniatures, and the game became very lavish looking and very beautiful. But this is going to be republished by Shut Up and Sit Down.
Ooh. Hey?
As part of their new publishing house.
Wow.
So they are taking older games which are kind of forgotten about and have promised to not only re-release them, but re-release them in a way that is easy to get hold of and economical. So they're not going over the top with titification and miniatures and gold coins. They said they are making a more economical, easier to get hold of, more user-friendly, accessible, that's what I'm looking for, version. So this is Dogs of War. Now, Dogs of War is a... How do you describe this game? I mean, lots of people seem to be describing this as a worker placement game, but it's not. It's a game which is all about political control. And you can control various guilds on the board, and you have secret objectives and secret resources that go behind little screens. And it's all about jostling control, and what the tokens do is they represent how much control you have in each thing. And it's like a seesaw kind of action. You're all pushing and pulling. I only played it once when it first came out, so it was 2014, 2015. We're getting on for 10 years ago I played this. So I must admit, my memory is a little hazy. But I remember really, really enjoying it, but being put off by the price of buying it for myself, because at the time it was a lavish Simon Kickstarter type copy. So I'm really rather looking forward to this coming out.
It sounds quite good.
Do you know what, this is
my cup of tea.
This is a really good idea. This is what they used to do in the old days, for those of us that are old enough to remember.
Way back in the days of yore.
It was what they did with games, video games. You remember the big game would come out from the original producer, and then 10, 15 years later it'd be reboxed in a super affordable kind of way.
Yeah.
And you could play... Basically. Well, yeah, basically. And you could pick it up for a quarter, an eighth of the price that the original came out with.
And with all the patches included, so it actually worked. And
fixes for that latest gen of computer or whatever it was. I think this is an absolute brilliant idea, because I think there's a whole load of games out there which were maybe inaccessible to people 10, 15 years, or just didn't have the audience 10, 15 years ago for various reasons, that this could give a whole new lease of life. So fair due to them. This is a cracking idea.
They're also doing some new games. So the other game, which is coming out at the same time, is called Animal Rescue Team, which is by Matt Leacock.
Oh. So 4 actions, turn a card over, next player.
Maybe, who knows? Let's see. I don't know much about it, but yeah, this is basically it's kind of it's in partnership with Zev Schlesinger, who is the person who did Z-Man games.
Ah, okay.
So
what a great name.
The actual name is Play to Z or Play to Z, which is going to be this publishing house. So yeah, this is. I'm hoping. I'm looking for it now, and I can't confirm. But I'm hearing early 2025 is when they were aiming for it. No, sorry, Dogs of War will be coming to retail late 2025. So it's hopefully in time for Christmas and at a sensible price.
Sounds good.
Who's left?
We're done.
Who hasn't picked three?
We've done all 3.
I haven't done.
Have we done all 3?
I haven't done 3.
I'm going to say Sid hasn't picked 3.
I was going to go with my usual plan for my third. Well, I'll admit I've bent a few rules, right? But I'm not the only one that has.
I haven't.
No, me neither.
Fucking Hermione over there probably hasn't. It's true.
Well, why? Unless you've got something up your sleeve, Sid, why don't you go through what some of the listeners said they're excited for?
Well, so yes, I can do that. I was going to see if you had more on your other list that you wanted to put through as my PhD crew recommends. But if we don't,
I think my belter for a Sid recommendation was already covered by.
I don't think we're going to get much better than that, are
we? So okay, I'll tell you what then. I'll go into it with this. Right, so I am copping out again, right? And I was going to go for my third choice was going to be, what does the PHC crew recommend? But I don't think I will this year, because I think you lot have had enough airtime. So
on our own podcast.
Yes, on your own podcast.
How dare we speak as co-hosts?
But no, I think let's change it up a bit. We've got a whole bunch of suggestions from our listeners. So I think in my third slot, I'm going to go through a few of these, and we can have a little bit of a round-the-table chit-chat, all cozy like.
Okay.
Yeah, we up for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, go on then.
So, what have we got? Right, no particular order. Phil Fennerty has thrown Molly House, which sounds like a drug den, frankly.
Do you know what a Molly House is?
I thought it was a drug house.
No, it was early. I think it's early Victorian.
Yeah.
And I looked this up after seeing Phil's recommendation because I put the show notes together. It was a place where a gentleman who did not prefer the fairer sex would hang out and meet.
Oh, I am very much been educated. So now that you know what an actual Molly House is, what's this game about?
It's about running a molly house.
Literally running them all this.
Yeah,
nice.
you've got
Classy.
the police, you've got the people that are running around trying to stop what they considered at the time to be deviant behaviour, whilst you're trying to basically just run a molly house and have fun and have a nice time. And you're trying to, and you've got all these gesture cards that you're trying to play. Now, this is a whirligig game. So this is from Carl Whirl, so who did John's Company, who did Pax Pamir, who did Fort Root, and so this is it's a really high caliber design studio that do a lot of historical games. So they take a great deal of care of making sure that it's historically accurate and very representative of the period that they're trying to do, and trying to make it very fair with their kind of representation of the people that are involved in the story. So this is going to be, I think it's a really interesting one. I think playing whirligig games is always also quite educational.
Yes.
You always learn something about the world whilst you're playing it as well. Really, really
I learned a
interesting.
lot just from reading the rule book of John Company. I mean, I've not played it yet, but it looks fantastic, and I learned a lot.
I think it's a good choice. It does look really interesting.
It does sound quite exciting.
I must admit as well, the pawns. I'm just looking at the little player meeples.
Did you say the porn or the pawns?
Pawns. P-O-W-N-S.
Right, okay.
Just
Column
checking.
A,
Player
column B,
pieces.
you know.
Well, they do look very dapper gentlemen, I must admit.
Very lovely.
They're very abstract, and there's like a little nice tricorner hat and one with a fantastic handlebar moustache on what is effectively a chess piece, which I'm well impressed
Excellent.
by.
All it
winner.
needs now is a rapier, and it's basically your RPG character, Steve.
And Phil has also given us a second choice, which I think you guys have spoken about in the past.
Rory's got, because I
was going to
backed
say,
it and
Rory's
bought it
got.
for him.
Yonder.
You're thinking of a different game.
I'm thinking
Yonder.
of Rebirth. My apologies. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm
Right,
confused.
okay.
Yonder, yeah. We were sent the review copy from Sinister Fish, and Steve and I have played this a few times. However, we've yet to play it with all the correct cards in all the correct places and the correct rules, because one of us is an A-grade Muppet.
It's not me.
Rory in twice wrong in the same podcast, shocker.
So yeah, we played. This is a really interesting worker placement game, Sid. So this is you're sending your workers out to the main board to do workers, which is normal. However, you've got different types of workers. You've got ogres, elves, skeletons, goblins.
Do you remember? And you can send them to other players' boards.
And you can send them to other players' boards as well. And you can force them to do stuff. You're going to build cards, which give you new slots. And every turn, when you kind of finish a round, you're going to select a ship, which is essentially new immigrants, these new fancy creatures coming from Yonder to your island. And you collect those, and that ship gives you abilities, and then you've got to collect your contracts are really interesting as well. Your contracts, once you complete them, they remain in place. So you can repeat them multiple times and keep triggering the bonus, but the bonus gets smaller the longer in the game goes. It had some really, really clever mechanisms in it, and it has a really nice twist on worker placement. It did something really different. It's Harken Gardner's game again, so it's his art, so it looks really vibrant. The meeples are really bright and really interesting and really fun. Very interesting game. You can listen back to that episode and have a listen to what we talk about it when in more detail there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Phil, for a couple of banging suggestions there. Our very own Paul backing me up, just to say, with Cosmere RPG.
I was going to say, Paul, a massive Brandon Sanderson fan, back in the Cosmere RPG. You know, as Andy says, he goes balls deep. I think Paul's gone neck deep on this. I mean, he's the guy who's bought like the exquisite leather-bound copies of the Radiance novels. So it's
he's all over this green on beans, I reckon.
Yeah.
Are you basically now paying off the foreshadowing you threw at us before, Sid?
Spiky Dave, not so Spiky Dave, he says, and he's not wrong here, based on the last couple of years of his experience, something by Hachette that we don't even know about yet. And he's quite right.
Yeah.
And he also backs up Andy with the New World Order.
So Hachette, obviously a distribution company here in the UK, so they've got they've got a liege of mainly French publishing companies, so Le Cercle de Masque Sorry, we are French, and a couple of catch-up games as well, which brought us some absolutely fantastic games last year and the year before. So, and luckily, Hachette always have quite good prominence at both UK Games Expo and Aircon. So we should see whatever they're bringing us. We should start seeing it from March onwards.
Oh, and because we are finger on the pulse, and I recently found out that there was a thing called Blue Sky, which I didn't know anything about. Team Glow are suggesting Luthier.
This got a lot of buzz at Expo.
It did look nice. It looks like my kind of game.
I must admit, I kicked myself for not trying to squeeze in a game of this. So, yeah.
It's from Pavison Games, who did Distilled. So it's Dave Beck's kind of second game here. It did look fantastic. Really, really nice.
Yeah, it's not due until mid 2025, so probably around about Expo time.
Yeah. All the reviews and the buzz I've seen about it is all very positive about this. So I don't know anything about it other than it's something to do with making violins, which obviously is a luthier. I think it's violins, it might be violas, but some stringed instrument you stick on your shoulder anyway, as far as I can tell.
Is that what it says on Wikipedia?
Pretty much, that's the exact definition of a violin. Stringed instrument, what one sticks on one's shoulder.
Right, well, moving on before Andy causes some kind of Wikipedia lawsuit. Andy Dobbs in I've done an Andy got my undercarriage in on this one action.
It's the way to go.
Proposes The Elder Scrolls by Chip Theory.
Yeah.
We featured that on last year's most anticipated games as well, didn't we?
We did. Now, I didn't back this in the end because, Andy Dobbs just mentioned in his note that it was very, very expensive. I think he says he laid out 500 quid, and that's what put me off. If this had been like a cheaper pledge level, I would have gone for this. But it was just like even the basic pledge level for this was extreme.
I've had the good grace to extend my to spread my ridiculous amount of expenditure on Too Many Bones out over several years, but
all at once on this one.
That's a lot for one.
Yeah, it does look really nice. I'm going to regret it because I'm not going to get a chance to play it because it does look really cool. It looks like an evolution of Too Many Bones, and we know how much we love Too Many Bones. But yeah, that Chip Theory tax made my eyes water. The Chip Theory tax, because it is the Chip Theory tax, isn't it? Let's be fair. That they go for a particular type of blingified game
that makes it really heavy and really expensive to produce. And
yeah.
It's as much to ship it as it is to buy it, yes. But it is very lovely because everything's waterproof and dog-proof, and it is lovely when you get it. Too Many Bones is spectacular on the table, it really is. Unfortunately, I cannot take it anywhere because I do not have a forklift and earth-moving equipment. It basically occupies a permanent lump on the top of my shelves now, and it just doesn't go anywhere because it's just too big.
The base game pledge for Elder Scrolls was $200.
That's not so bad for the production quality.
That's the gameplay bundle, $230. The all-in bundle, $400.
That's
pre-tax. That's pre-tax.
That's pre-tax, pre-shipping.
So that's 600 quid all in, really, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
at least.
That's what kind of. If that base game had been a little bit of a lower entry price point, I probably would have bid. But yeah. So what's next, Sid?
Next, now I reckon that we've had a hand in this one, courtesy of your wonderfully painted dragons, gentlemen. But Keith is all over Avalon, the Riven Vale.
Well, I hope, Keith, it lives up to your expectations. I thought it was brilliant, so I backed this as well. One would expect, of course, I'm all in on this one.
I'm sure it's going to be good, but if it's not, it's all Steve's fault.
And then we've got Nikki, who says she's looking forward to S.T.A.L.K.E.R.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
From Awakened Realms.
Yeah, based on the video game. Now, the earlier video games I quite enjoyed because they are brutally hard. Now, apparently the most recent one is bollocks, but I don't know. I haven't played it. But the original games were really quite good.
This is the Chernobyl kind of
one, yeah.
weird
So
artifacty collecting thing,
instead
isn't
of
it?
releasing boring radiation, it released a cloud of magic, which then allowed people to sit in hoodies and play guitars looking for tins of beans. That's pretty much what you did in the original game.
Did you?
I'm being slightly facetious, but ultimately,
okay.
I mean, you were walking around the wasteland of Chernobyl. There were lots of sort of little groups of individuals who sat around fires playing guitars, sat in hoodies, and they asked you to do little fetch quests and stuff. But it had more bugs than a crack whore with the sniffles at the time, so it was a bit problematic to play.
I mean, I completely missed this project. This was been and gone on GameFound, and I completely missed it.
Yeah, me too.
It's a big. I think it's pretty big in the video game franchise land, isn't it?
Oh, it's massive.
It's very popular in that.
At least
that realm.
3. There's Stalker
2.
Yeah, it had a subtitle, but I can't remember. Shadows of Chernobyl, I think it was. Well, that was the first one. I can't remember this.
Do you know what? I own this game, and I completely forgot I owned it because I was clearing the garage out, and I found a still in shrink copy of this for the PC.
Was it in the Steelbook, like my copy?
No, it wasn't a fancy copy like that. It was just that. But ironically, by the time I'd found this, my PC no longer had a CD drive, so it's effectively an expensive coaster at this point.
I've had to unplug and disconnect my Blu-ray drive from my PC, my recent build, because I don't have enough SATA ports on my new motherboard. The march of technology. But yes, Stalker, or at least the earlier games, Stalker was very good. I can't believe I've missed this from Awaken Realms as well, because I'm a big follower of Awaken Realms for lots of obvious reasons. But it vaguely rings a bell, but I didn't really look at it because I thought, no, I've got enough plastic, which is clearly a lie, but I've managed to avoid this one, sadly. I'm sure it'll be good. It's Awaken Realms. They haven't released a bad game yet, as far as I'm aware.
And then I think this one is very important to mention. Is Joshua is really looking forward to Game of 2024 if you listen to Rory Shackleton Bass. Joshua is a man after my own heart, right? And the reason he qualifies to get a 2024 game into the games he's looking forward to in 2025 is on an absolute irrelevant PHC technicality, which is that it's not yet available in the US.
Yeah.
Fair.
So he
Totally counts.
He's a good lad.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can bring it up next year.
Absolutely. That'll be me bagging that for next year.
Yes.
Interesting, though, he also mentioned Saltford.
He does.
And, Saltfjord, sorry. And I've not heard of this game.
Neither.
And yet it came out last year.
It got a lot of buzz. It was a very pretty game. It was doing the Instagram rounds late autumn, early winter. Lots of noise about that. Lots of people's, on the Instagram anyway, it was in a lot of top 10s of the year.
Right, I mean, I completely missed this one, so that's another one for me to check out from last year. Which means it's definitely allowed to be in the best of 2025 list.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go.
Why should we let a little thing like the date the game came out affect our system?
Absolutely.
Hasn't stopped me, hasn't stopped anybody else on this podcast, so why should it stop our
Rory
listeners?
can make Shackleton Bass his game of the year in a year that was less good. There you go.
And then I think we'll round off our listeners' comments with Diego, who says only played 2 2024 games. I'm assuming he's played other games this year, but he has no idea what's coming out in 2025.
So hopefully, we just blagged it.
Well, hopefully, our little rundown of all of our games has given him some good fodder to go and look into, especially Horror on the Orient Express, which I will be talking about at the end of this year as my favourite game of the year. So let's just record that snippet now, Steve, and I can have extra beers at the end of this year.
Have a nap during this next year's podcast.
It's efficiency, mate. I'm working. My 2025 mission is to be efficient.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I must admit, though, this has just been a snippet because I shared a geek list round with you guys a week or so ago, like just in case you needed some more ideas. And there was a lot of games on that list coming out this year, which was a geek list of announcements. And I believe there are 210 games on this list that are apparently coming out in 2025.
Holy poop on a stick.
And that's games we know about.
Yep.
And a lot of them, of course, won't be of interest to us. But even so, that's a lot of games.
I mean, if you think about, I did, as I joked at the start of this episode, CGE will bring out a game this year which will be demoed at UK Games Expo. And we have no idea what that is yet. Board and Dice haven't announced any new games for this year at all yet. They've only announced expansions. Some of the big publishers that we know and we follow and we look forward to haven't actually given us what they're going to be bringing out this year. So it's all to play for. Talking of geek lists, I have put together a Polyhedron Collider geek list, which covers all the games we've talked about here with a bit more details, and some of the others that were on our list that we haven't had quite time to talk about because we have kept it to just, in theory, 3 per person. But there are some more games on there, which I'm going to try and keep on top of this year. So as we get wind of new games, I'll be adding them to the list. So Steve, if you could add that to the show notes for our listeners, that'd be super.
Yes, of course.
Question for the floor.
Yeah, ooh, right.
This is the floor. 2 or 3 of the floor, anyway. Are 2 of you, or at least 2 of you, going to reattempt the top 100 playthrough this year, or are you decided it's a stupid endeavour because you haven't got enough time and we've got too many review copies?
Would an answer in this particular forum be considered legally binding?
Yes.
Yeah, it was last year because you completely fluffed it.
You did.
So we've
And
been
you never-
Polyhedron Collider.
you
This has
never
been
admitted it.
They
I
partially
think-
fluffed it, Sid.
You should be holding your hand up, admitting you completely ballsed it up. You got halfway through the year and just
Gave up.
frittered the rest of the 6 months away.
But in halfway through the year, we were dead on target. We were spat bang on target. We were
Is
doing
that-
really well?
Is that about the time that Rory found Kingdom Death Monster in that list and then couldn't stop playing it anymore?
No, it was UK Games Expo happened.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've said this before. UK Games Expo happened, and yes, it all went to pot. It really did. And in fact, we've got a bit of a backlog of review games at the moment, and I don't think I'd even begin to look at it until March if we carried on with this. But we do want to try and. I don't want to say formally do a challenge this year like we did last year, because it actually became a little bit stressful at one point once we started getting review copies in.
Yeah.
But I've bought games, but we haven't got around to playing that we were intending on playing as part of
Yeah,
that
same
challenge.
here.
So
I've got a collection of games that managed to get Clans of Caledonia, Mage Knight, which I only bought for this challenge.
Clans of Caledonia. Is that Clans of Caledonia in the top 100?
Yeah.
Is it? Why?
I've got a proposal. Maybe you guys bit off more than you could chew. What about doing playing the top 10 or playing the top 25 or finding a top 10 list of certain types of game and working through that?
I still quite like the idea of essentially trying to finish it, because there are games in that top 100 that I've never played and sound really interesting. And obviously they're there for a reason. Lots of people think they are good, so let's give them a go. I'm really interested to play Beyond the Sun. That looks and sounds like a great game, and I think it's my cup of tea, but I've not had a chance to. And by doing this challenge, it's forcing me to. It's directing me to play certain games, and that's what I quite like. Rather than just going, I'm just going to buy this and play this because it looks nice as it's new. Let's try something that's tried and tested, and hopefully, or even like I say, Kingdom Death Monster was new. Even going back and playing some of those great older games like Android Netrunner, it was really nice to get that back to the table. Even Terra Mystica, it was just nice to play that game again. Lords of Waterdeep, it's just a great game. It's a great excuse to go back to some of these old ones.
In that case, then, why don't you challenge yourselves to see how much further you can make it through this year on the same list? Don't change the list. Keep what you've already done.
Because then we don't have to play Scout.
Got you. I've got your back, mate. Keep the same list and just carry on working through it. And then we'll review again at next year's and we'll see how well you've done.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't feel like you completely failed the challenge you set yourself last year.
Even though they have.
Even though,
Look, we just missed the
trying to help
deadline.
them, trying to support them and build them up again. Make them, encourage them to get amongst it.
It's actually been, what's been interesting has been keeping an eye on the top 100, and it's been interesting how and why it changes and what it changes with. Like, it doesn't change massively, but it's interesting like what's dropped out of the top 100 in that year.
Anything notable?
Battlestar Galactica's dropped out.
Has it?
Tainted Grail's dropped out.
Blasphemy!
Inish dropped out. Search for Planet X dropped out, which was a new one to us anyway.
Wasn't that the crew? Wasn't that the Search for... Oh, no, it's Planet 9, isn't it?
No,
Search for Planet X is good.
Yeah. But it's interesting watching what kind of pops up and goes in there. Like, just before we set the list last time, Oathsworn came in, and Oathsworn was like 150, and they basically went up like 100 spaces in the top 100 in like a week.
Well,
And you're like, well, how does this thing go? And it's interesting to see how these things move, but the top 10 at the moment seems pretty constant.
you'd expect that, I think. Yeah, because I know Trakirian was flirting around the 100 mark when you started as well, sort of in and out.
It's about 110 at the moment. So.
Actually, I do have a challenge for you all. And this is something that should certainly be achievable, is that I think you should all play Blood on the Clock Tower. I know damn well Steve will really enjoy it. Sid will probably really enjoy it. I'm pretty sure Roy will enjoy it. Will probably find it quite stressful. But I think you will all enjoy it. It is really, really, really good. And we host in Bewdley I'm going to say a semi-regular game, but we do host a game of it. So you'd be more than welcome to join that.
There's a regular monthly one in Warwick, just up the road from me. So
get involved.
Right then, we are running out of time, folks. So, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We will be back to our normal podcasting shenanigans next episode. I'm about to say next week, but that's a bit keen.
And a lie.
Of course, we are sponsored by Yonder. If you want to keep an eye and buy any of these games you've mentioned, keep an eye on Yonder. There is a link in the show notes which will get you a discount off your first order. So thank you for listening. Please give us a review on iTunes, share us with your friends, engage us on the socials, which are Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Board Game Geek Guild 2726. Until next time, happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.